Feeling thirsty for knowledge? Hackers on the Rocks is the podcast that mixes refreshing conversation with potent cybersecurity insights. Serving up these insights with a twist, we pair a different software vulnerability with a refreshing cocktail recipe each episode. All right, hello world and greetings all around. Our opening segment is called Get Handle Information. And friends, we have a heck of a handle today. Yael Grauer, what are we drinking today?
We are drinking an Empress Southside.
All right, this is the most fascinating thing that I've ever come across. Tell me what an Empress Southside is, please.
Oh gosh, well I was going to do a gin gimlet, but this is sort of more like a mojito with a gin twist, but the exciting thing is that it changes color.
Yes, we are getting color changing drinks. So if you're listening to the audio feed, maybe switch to the video feed, listeners, because I've never heard of a color changing drink. So how is this possible?
I think it's the magic of butterfly pea flower and acids and chemistry or something.
Yeah, totally not at all what we're going to talk about today. Fair enough. All right, so the Empress Southside, how do we make one?
Okay, so we're going to start by mixing gin, simple syrup, and milk and mint over ice.
All right, so I have gin. Yep. And the gin is specific, correct? Or
yeah,
is any gin?
Make it yourself because Empress gin is kind of expensive. You can also add butterfly pea flower and like soak it, but that takes time. And
we don't got time for that. We have ourselves a bottle of Empress 1908. And how much are we pouring over the ice?
We're gonna do 2 ounces. It's this beautiful purple color.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then I do 6 mint leaves.
All right. I have my mint. And that's going right into the ice?
Yep. And then we are going to do like 0.75 ounce of simple syrup. You can make your own, or you can buy it. I bought mine.
Same. All right, simple syrup going into the mint. And the gin. And I'm going to add more simple syrup because I'm not a gin guy, so anything to drown out the gin is good by me.
I never used to be a gin person, but it grew on me.
Well, it changes colors. It's dynamic. Oh.
All right. So now we're going to shake.
All right.
This is the fun part, right?
Maybe. Until gin ends up all over my keyboard.
My least favorite part is trying to get the cup off because I used to really struggle with it, but I've gotten better. So. Did it off the air, but I did it in one shot.
Yeah, fair.
Okay, so.
All right, so we have ice, gin, mint, and lime juice.
We're going to pour this into a cup. Let me get my strainer.
All right. So here at Hackers on the Rocks headquarters, I have this nice purplish color.
Yeah, it's
some
pretty
bubbles
red.
Popping in. Sure.
Like a nice blue. And then, now that you have your color and you've observed it, we are going to add lime juice. 1 ounce of lime juice.
All right. Lime juice.
This is the color, the beautiful color changing part.
Ooh, yeah, look at that go. I don't know if mine's coming through, but this has gone from a dark purple to a lighter peachish color. Yeah, really neat.
Beautiful, right?
So. It is beautiful. All right, cheers.
And you can add soda water if you want to be fancy. I have cute little cocktail cherries. Or you can drink it.
Yeah, fair enough.
So how do you think this is for as a non-gin drinker?
The amount of lime juice and mint and simple syrup that I added, it's the perfect gin drink for me. And I do have I have the club soda and the cherries on standby, but I think I'm fine. This is a good yeah, our first color chemistry experiment on the show. So
My
yeah,
dad is
thank you.
actually a chemist, so I feel like I came about this honestly.
Yeah. Well, while we're drinking, maybe tell us a little about yourself and how you got into the research community.
Sure. My name's Yael Grauer, and I used to be. I think I got into online like security when I was a tech journalist, or actually, it was even before I was a tech journalist. I was just doing journalism, and a lot of people I knew were getting harassed online all the time. And I'm like, oh, I need to kind of investigate what I can do to protect myself online. And this was like right around Snowden time, but I think everybody else kind of transitioned because of Snowden. But for me, it was like spending weeks trying to figure out how to secure myself online and realizing that a lot of the information out there was inaccurate, and or I was spending a lot of time doing things that wouldn't actually help me with what I was trying to protect. And then because I was a freelancer, I'm like, I need to start writing about this now if I want to get paid this long. So, so I started writing security articles and then realized it was more interesting than other things I had been covering at the time, which was like health and fitness and like social media marketing for small businesses. And I'm like, this is way more interesting. So,
Yeah, I'll say, honestly, as a fan, I think, I've enjoyed your writings for quite some time in the space. So it is an absolute honor to have you on the guest. Absolute honor to have you on the show as a
I'm
guest.
excited to be here.
Um,
You also had my favorite hacker, so I knew I had to.
which hacker is that?
Katie Mo is my favorite. Yeah. So like, I want to be on a podcast Katie was on.
She is fantastic. Yeah, we keep in touch. We've had a good time from the show. So yeah, for sure. So yeah, adding to the quality Rolodex of guests, we bring Yael Grauer. So um, let's pause real quick for a quick sponsor shout out, and then let's get into the conversation. This episode is brought to you by Nightwing. Cyber threats never stop evolving, and neither does Nightwing. With decades of experience, Nightwing delivers elite cyber and national security solutions for the nation's most critical missions. They combine deep expertise with cutting-edge technology to protect what matters most. Trusted by top agencies, businesses, and organizations, they don't just defend against cyber threats, they stay ahead of them. Learn more at nightwing.com. All right, so our main segment is called the distillery, where Yale, you're going to help take a very scary vulnerability class and distill it down for us. Obviously, today it's one that just affects us all. How would you like to shape the conversation? What are we talking about?
Oh, I guess like this kind of fits in pretty naturally from why I got interested in cybersecurity. It's like I didn't want people to find my address online.
Yeah, so let's start there, right? So, and you said this at the top of the show, um,
Mhm.
talking about what you could do to protect yourself online. You're finding data out there that you didn't want, inaccurate data that maybe you did want, techniques that didn't actually remove. So, I think maybe let's start on a negative tone. I know I feel very overwhelmed by online privacy. I feel like it's the losing battle. Maybe from your perspective, like what's the most common misconception or feeling people have about online privacy that maybe you wish you could shatter?
I think sometimes people think that because they pay for the tool of the month that they heard about on a podcast, maybe that they're secure. Like, oh, like I use XVPN that somebody told me about. I don't think there's an actual VPN called that. I said that as a placeholder, but they think because they heard about this that like they're not vulnerable to other things. So I think that's like one of the big issues is people think like having kind of overconfidence about their online security, and then the other is like sometimes people think things are even worse than they are, and that like they'll be convinced that somebody has infiltrated their home or all of their devices when actually they're just posting about things publicly, or like maybe are friends with somebody who's sharing information with another person. Um, or they'll think like, oh, I'm in trouble because I went on my bank website without using a VPN, even though banks are protected by SSL. So like, um, I think people either are overconfident or underconfident and just don't have a really good understanding of what their actual risks are.
Yeah, it's funny you mentioned VPNs and banks because I've noticed that with some banks that I have done business with, I'll get a warning like we've detected you're using a VPN. Disconnect from your VPN before you connect to us. I'm like, well, what are we actually solving here? But maybe we could talk about data. I
Yeah.
think it's interesting you say that there's people that are overconfident, maybe not in terms of data being out there, more in terms of their own security. But
Yeah.
um, I notice all the time. I'll get an announcement from some service that I've subscribed to. Oh, like personal information has hit the internet, and it's some address that a relative lived at 10 years ago, like, and it's not accurate, but it's still personal, even though it's not mine. Or sometimes there is accurate information, and it's always on these websites that don't look like they do anything other than scrape information and repost it. So I guess what can people do? Like, I guess let's start with removal services. Do removal services work in your opinion?
Some of them work better than others. They work to a point. But yeah, so basically, like people find their address online. Like as soon as people learn, they're usually really shocked, and they're like, "Oh, my address is everywhere." And the process of removing it yourself is time consuming and frustrating. And so what a lot of people do is they will pay for a service to remove their data for them. And um, we at Consumer Reports worked with Tall Poppy, and we tested. We did sort of a small scale test of which of these services were actually removing data from a series of volunteers that we got to sign up, and some of them barely removed anything. Some of them did pretty well, but none of them got to 100%. So if people think like, "Oh, I'll just pay a service and then everything is fine," and I'm 100% protected, like then that's not the case. And also, like, there's other ways people can find out where you live beyond these weird websites, like if they have access to voter rolls or real estate information, and so nothing is kind of 100%. I don't like the word foolproof because it makes it sound like
No.
nothing is perfect.
I somewhat recently learned about the voter roll concept because I live in a state where that data is mandatorily public, and it's very interesting to me that in order to vote you have to share your address, and then anyone who wants it can then buy it, right? So there's, I mean, maybe
Yeah.
we can. Yeah, I'm not sure where to go. I mean, I guess there's so much data out there. I mean, do you feel like legislation would solve this, or is kind of like the genie out of the bottle, and we're all screwed?
I do think that I think part of the reason why these services don't work as well as they could is because a lot of people ignore them because there's no legislation. So I do think legislation would be helpful, but when we have had privacy legislation, they often make exceptions for what they consider public records, which includes real estate data. And so I think
Hmm.
there's a way to solve. Like, obviously, there's like a First Amendment issue. Like people will say, if this information is public, then we should be able to publish and profit off of it. But I think that
Hmm.
there are ways to introduce friction into the like I've had times when I wanted to get a hold of certain court documents, and I had to go somewhere in person. I had to show ID. Like there was a paper trail at least. So I do think that it would be great if there was legislation, because I don't think this is what was intended, that like anybody with an internet connection can find out where anybody lives, and like I don't think it's right for people to be profiting off that information. But like I understand why people want access to some of it, for like watchdog groups might want to know, like, oh, these shell companies are buying property, or like this person doesn't live in the district they represent or whatever. So I think it would have to be kind of narrowly scoped. But yeah, I do think that legislation could be a solution here. Yeah, for sure.
And do you feel like legislation is, because you mentioned loopholes and exceptions and
Mhm.
carve outs, and is do you feel like legislation would actually put a dent in these things, or is it? I mean, or is it just, again, just a big old game of whack a mole?
I think it could. I think it could to an extent. Yeah, I think it could. There's already there's already exceptions, like in certain circumstances, like in some states, if you happen to be a judge or a police officer or something like that, or if you have a court order that shows that you are a victim of domestic violence or stalking, then like they will remove your information from some things. But it's like, why should I don't think that one profession should have be able to be safer at home than another. Like and I don't think you should have to wait for an incident or to file a police report to say like, no, I'm actually trying to prevent incidents. But yeah, nothing is like completely perfect, but I do think it could make a difference. Like, yeah, I think it could. And I guess like people already, like I have an opt out list that teaches people how to opt out, and I know people are using it because they send me updates and tell me what's not working, which is great. But like, They know that it's not perfect, but they are still like, oh, I can at least minimize, like I can have a smaller online presence, a smaller digital footprint, and sometimes that's effective depending on who is trying to find out where you live. Some people just give up, you know. I mean, there's always like
Yeah.
people who follow you home. Like there's always, if somebody has time, resources, motivation, money,
Hmm.
then yeah, it's not
Sure, but I
100%.
agree with you about friction and like why make it easy, right? I think you know, to your point, I think the and public record is one thing, right? I understand there's real estate records, there's automobile records, there's people post their phone numbers online. Like I get like those pieces, but it does seem like any contract that anyone enters into now has in very tiny six point fonts, like, and here's where your data can go, and it just feels like so many people know so much about you, right? I get all sorts of weird postcards about like, here's the balance of of a loan you have. Like, how on earth would you know that? Like, there's all sort,
Yeah.
it just maybe like, do, let's talk about hope, right? Like, it seems like there's well, before we talk about hope, like, what do you think then are the biggest hurdles, right? How do we achieve some kind of meaningful systemic privacy protection? Like legislation, it sounds like in the political environment is always going to be very challenging, at least in this country and in the United States.
Hmm.
At least at the federal level, like how do we start to make a dent in this?
Yeah. Oh gosh, that's a big question. Like, cause let's just like, but I can give like a sort of high level, like ideologically, I don't think that you should have to opt. Like, it's funny because I run an opt out list. I feel like that's not the best way. Making people opt out of everything, I don't think that is the most effective way to do things. But like, what if you couldn't sell this? Like you couldn't profit off of people's information that you're selling without their knowledge or consent. Like that would be, I don't know. What if there was a single? I know that like some of the state legislation, I think is, even though there are exemptions for public data, I like a lot of where some of the state legislation is going. Where like, oh, we want a single opt out. We want there's types of legislation where like if you are on a do not call list, people have to check that list to make sure that you're still off it. You know,
I
so
still
I
get
think
a shit ton of phone calls, so I don't know how effective those
not
lists are, right?
perfect.
And right, and maybe yeah, I mean even the opt outs, right?
Yeah,
If I subscribe for something, I'll get the annual notification of like, if you take action and call us or write us or visit us, you can opt out of these particular categories. But there's these other categories where like we're just going to give your data to our partners and they're going to do with it what
yeah,
they're going to do with it. And
yeah.
so
It's such a mess. It's not even just opting out. It's like everything. It's like say I use SSO to log in somewhere. Say I use like Facebook. I don't know, whatever. A decade ago, like, can I never link my information with my account in another way? What if I get off Facebook? Like, that's frustrating to me. That like, it's such a pain to like figure out how to opt out. That like, how do you claw back your data from these companies? Like, that's frustrating. So
well, I think it sounds like you started to go. I think before I really interrupted you, it sounds like you started to go down a path of, hey, at certain state levels, things are perhaps moving in the right direction. And this might be a morbid question, but recently, at least as we tape this, recently, there were 4 gunshot victims in Minnesota, and the shootings appeared to be politically motivated. And so, perhaps those in politics recognize that, unfortunately, on all sides of the aisle, there's unfortunately they're just mean, crazy, violent people out there, and maybe there's a motivation to perhaps do something about it, saying keep addresses out of record, keep phone numbers out of record, keep vehicle registrations out of record, at like publicly accessible record. Do you feel like this might be a good input, that taking a really horrific event and making good out of it, so it's not a senseless act, or is this not enough to move the needle for meaningful legislation?
I think people on the local level in some areas are paying attention to that. Yeah. It can be a little tricky. Like it's you want to make sure the solution you propose would have actually prevented that, or um. But yeah, I mean that's like the worst case scenario. It's like, oh, somebody found my address and showed up at my house with a gun. Like Yeah, it's awful. So yeah.
Maybe beyond legislation, right, and beyond again public record, voting records, and that jazz. Like I've read a number of things. You've done some pretty extensive work on just data brokers in general. Can you maybe paint a picture for the audience of like what happens to our device? What happens to our data like once it leaves devices?
Yeah, I mean, there's different types of data brokers. So, like we've been talking about people search sites, but there's also data brokers that kind of create dossiers of people in order to market to them. So they take a lot of your information and then use it to make inferences that may or may not be true that can affect a lot of things, like what kind of ads you see, what kind of rates you're offered on a credit card, etc. And so, a lot of people, I think it's like slightly different people, like not everybody's concerned with both, but it's something a lot of people are concerned about too, that they don't want to um, have inferences about them or information shared with other companies. And like even if I like a company, I might be like, oh, I like this company, I will share my information with them. That doesn't necessarily mean I want it shared with all of their partners. And there's ways to a point, like especially in California and some other states, to kind of try to claw back that data. And
Can
then
you
the third
can you
type
talk
of,
about those ways? Like what ways are there?
so like in California, they're just implementing the drop act, and so it's going to allow people to be on a kind of, it's sort of like a do not call list, like it's and I don't know exactly how they're going to implement it, but people will, like the data brokers will not be allowed to have that information. On their rosters, but again, there's exceptions. I think there's exceptions by the size of the company and like whether information is considered public or whatnot. But yeah, and also like Consumer Reports, there's an app called Permission Slip. There's a free and paid tier, but it allows people to say like, I would like to delete my data from this company, or say or I don't want them to sell information to. So there's ways to kind of go through that process. And there's different states that have similar laws. Like there's also some really cool data minimization laws, which I'm excited about. That says like companies
Talk
can't.
about them.
Yeah,
Like what? What do you got? You're
I
following
believe
you're following this stuff a lot more accurately than any one of our listeners. So
it's
yeah, please
it's
enlighten
funny
us.
because I'm not like, we have an expert on our team who would answer this question so much better, Matt Schwartz. But like I can wing it. No, there's
Yeah,
like a law. I think it's in Colorado. I would have to look that up. But like companies are not supposed to collect information unless they actually need it to transact your data. So I feel like there's a tendency for a lot of companies to be like, we're going to collect everything and then we'll figure out if we want to use it or how to use it later. And then that leaves that data vulnerable, not just to them deciding they want to use it for something that you may not have agreed to, but also like obviously everything's vulnerable to breaches. Like this is why we tell people, like, close your account if you're not using it, take down stuff that you're not using, because any piece of information that's sitting there is a sitting duck, and if you're not even using the service, you're not getting any benefit from that possibility. Like there's so many times when information's just, I don't know how many emails you get. I get so many emails that are like, your information's been leaked again. Like it's like, god damn it, like I try
yeah, and
so
I
hard
think that leads to everyone's feeling of hopelessness. I know
to
Jake Williams talks a lot, very regularly about yeah, from a company perspective, you don't need the data, don't collect it because if it gets
right.
breached out, like that only increases your own liability and risk. But it just seems like businesses are not getting that message. And again, I think when we talk about surveillance, right, like historically, surveillance is like a function of government, and I don't think we're there anymore. I think it's
Yeah.
now, it's now private sector. It's less obvious forms. It's stuff that's just deeply embedded in all of the apps and services we use. And I guess how maybe like from your perspective, like how does that like constant monitoring from everything, like how do you feel like that shapes our behavior?
Yeah, well, it's interesting that I don't even, one of the things I've been thinking about lately is we used to be like, this is government surveillance and this is company surveillance, but now there's these blurred lines where we see government, probably illegally, getting access to information from or maybe illegally, I don't know, that's debatable, probably, getting information from companies. So it's like like you might think, oh, this data is only going here, but then it ends up over there. So yeah, it's like don't collect it in the first place unless you're gonna secure it and like fight to not share it with people that might be trying to access it illegally. But yeah, I don't know. I think it does shift our behavior. I don't know. It's just the threat of cameras everywhere. I don't know. I'm just kind of glad that I didn't grow up with cameras everywhere because
All right, so maybe let's shift conversation to like looking forwards, right? I guess we'll start with those young people. Do you see a role for like education in empowering individuals to take control of their online privacy, or really anything? I mean, especially like I've got kids, right? So like the younger generations who have like grown up entirely in the digital age, like is there a role for education, or is that going to just not be as effective
yeah,
as maybe other means?
I mean, I think like a lot of younger people are actually really good at this already. Like they can educate us. Like I was just reading about quiet relationships, like soft shipping. It was like some Gen Z article. I don't know. Like people already know. Like I think like ephemerality also became a thing when like I was taught that everything on the internet is going to be there forever. Like, and obviously there's chances of things that you think are going to disappear not disappearing, but like that was created like relatively recently, and I think people are aware, like at least the young people that I talk to are like, oh yeah, I'm not going to post a picture until after I leave this location, or like but yeah, I think there are ways. I wish it was less complicated. I wish there was more these things were kind of baked in by default, and that there wasn't so much of an education component necessary. But yeah, I do think it's something that people want to do and will do. So
Yeah.
like I work on a digital security tool called Security Planner, and we give people instructions. We're like, and I wish it wasn't so long. People will say like, these are the devices I use. This is what I want to do. And sometimes we're like, here's 30 tips, and like we prioritize them. So at least if they don't get through all 30, like at least they'll get started on something that will help them immediately, ideally. Um, but I don't know. I wish the list wasn't so long, but that's like a systemic issue with tech companies with capitalism. Like, so
Yeah,
okay,
and so just for the listeners, right? That list, those 30 steps per device, or whatever, those are things that you can do as a consumer to try and block your own device or your own apps or your own settings from essentially leaking information. Is that an accurate statement?
some of them, yeah. Sometimes it'll be like, here's how to change your privacy settings, and some of it is security issues, like here's how to update your apps because I feel like security and privacy really kind of go hand in hand because if your information isn't secure, it doesn't matter what the privacy policies of a company are. They're going to end up everywhere anyway. Or not everywhere, but out there.
Well,
Um,
maybe
so yeah.
can we shift on that? I think
Yeah.
because I think one of the things that I'm always just fascinated is right is like just being more proactive about, I'll say, hiding the information from the get go, right? So you talked about this is maybe a contrived example. Like you talked about like people being able to ascertain your address from voter from voter registration rolls, and so the solution to that is don't vote, right? Um, let's take that to an extreme. Like let's say somebody wants to be a complete ghost, right? They don't want their home discoverable, they don't want their car discoverable, they don't want their phone number discoverable. Like what what advice would you? I mean, let's take this one at a time, right? So let's say I want to try and minimize my address from. Yes, I understand people can always like follow me, but like
Right.
if I don't want my internet, if I don't like the internet knowing my home address, like what are things that I should consider doing, at least
Um,
either in a house that I've got or like a next one?
you could use a PO box everywhere for anything that you have. I mean, that's not always possible because you might want something shipped to you, but like that minimizes, addresses leaking because you didn't give them your address, you give them your post office. So that's one thing you can do. Um, like having a slightly different name online. It's kind of tough to say that though because like I feel like when somebody's an enigma, that depending on their threat model, like somebody might want to try to find them. But like I know people that have done this in
Mm,
obvious ways and in not obvious ways, where they're like, I'm just going to use my middle name, and like sometimes it's very clearly linked to other accounts because they use their same image for both of them. So it gets really complicated. But yeah, not blasting your address everywhere is a good start.
well,
uh,
again, I feel like that's not. I mean, I don't. I don't. I don't know many people who willingly post their address online, but again,
Oh,
like,
no, no, no. I don't mean online. I mean, like, if you buy 50 products from 50 places and one of them gets breached and you used your home address.
okay, so that's cool. All
Yeah.
right, so when you're filling out forms online or signing up for services, try not to give your actual address to those businesses because you don't know what those businesses are doing with the data, and or they could get breached.
Right. Exactly. Yeah.
Got it.
Yeah.
Okay, so
But it's tough advice because I feel like we'd have to go back in time. Like, you'd have to start sooner. Like, as soon as you move. I remember, like, as soon as I moved, there was something that I needed shipped to me that was like it was like fresh. Like I couldn't get it sent to a PO box, and like that got breached immediately. Then they tried to fight with me about whether your address is PII. They were like, "This isn't PII. It's just an address." And I'm like, "Oh my god!" Like,
I mean,
so
I've definitely tried to order stuff where it's like we don't ship to PO boxes. I'm like, okay,
yeah.
okay, well, great, you know, like,
Yeah, and it's like I used to go to a co-working space and I used that as an address, but then everybody knows where you co-work. And then what if you leave the co-working space? Like, what are they going to do with your stuff? Are you going to pay forever? Like, so yeah, I don't know. I don't feel like there's I wish there was a super easy cut and dried answer. Like I give these talks a lot, and people will come up to me and they're like, "What if I buy my home in a trust in this state?" And I'm like, "I don't know the laws for every state. I don't know which trust will leak your like your real address. Like I don't know, or your
yeah,
real name and associate with that address. I just don't know. Like, but yeah, I don't think a lot of people are going to go through that extreme though. So
right. Setting up you know, an anonymous LLC in some privacy centric company state to then own a bunch of things, right? Or
right,
I mean,
yeah,
I do know people who intentionally will not purchase property; they will only rent for you know, now they're not in like uh, you know, real estate, you know, search databases. And
right,
that's a calculated decision by the individual for, you know, to choose to do that for that reason. But um, yeah,
yeah,
it's really really fascinating stuff. And it still sounds so bleak. So maybe like,
yeah.
is
I wish
there
it was an easier answer. I wish I could
one?
say like, no, just check this box and then your address
No,
will.
and you're like, I love that you're smiling, and laughing through everything too. So like,
Oh,
there's clearly
gallows humor.
well, it's either that or you actually have a sense of optimism. So I'm I'm hoping it's the latter. Like,
I mean, I think my
is
sense of optimism is that a lot of people who want to try to find your address online are not very smart, and this is like 100% security way of security. They're going to try to find your address. They're going to find the wrong one. They're going to post it. People like whatever. They'll just give up. Like or they're not going to find it easily, and then they'll just give up. Like that's but that doesn't work for everything. It depends on like if it's like a crowdsourced harassment campaign, like you know
mm,
if there's like people involved who have access to databases that other people don't have access to, like skip trace databases, etc. Like it's there's not a lot you can like. You might have to move. You know, people have had to move, so like yeah,
yeah.
it's not. I don't think it is bleak. So I don't mean to make light of it by smiling, but like yeah, it's not.
Since you raised the phrase, can you define skip tracing for our audience?
Oh, it's there's databases that people will use if you owe money on credit cards to try to figure out where you are. I don't know exactly how the software works or the services work, but they're very good. And there's also like access to like there's certain databases that are you can't get off of, you can't get removed from basically. Um, I think like law enforcement and like private investigators might have access to some of those. So if there's like a harassment campaign targeting you that's big enough to attract some of those people, like there's really not a lot you can like then you're starting to think about like home security and that kind of thing, like which I don't know a lot about but like there's a lot of people out there who do, but it's like yeah, it's not I don't it's not good, none of this is good, so
All right, we're back to gallows humor and bleakness. Is there a privacy trend or some kind of development that does excite you or give you a sense of optimism, or is it's all just, you know, it's all just horrible all the way down?
I mean, I like one of the things that I think is really cool is that one of the services that worked the best in our testing was easy opt outs. I think it was our second best, but it's also like the most affordable. So it's really cool to be able to tell people, like, oh, just spend $20. It's so much cheaper than the other services. Most people have $20 a year. Like, not everybody, but it's like way more accessible than like 250, whatever the other services are, like when you're talking 100 or higher.
Yeah.
And then, like, I was really excited. This isn't really happening anymore because of the changes, but I was excited about some of the work that the old CFPB was trying to do, to kind of link people's, like, they were like, this is credit header data. They were trying to say that certain information online was credit header data. And so, like, companies wouldn't be able to share it as easily.
Hmm.
I thought that was really cool, like a really cool creative way to look at it from an organization that I wouldn't expect to be as focused on people search sites. And I don't know, like, I get excited. I helped somebody every once in a while. I'll ask somebody, like, do you want me to opt you out because they're stressed out or don't have money, or maybe they paid for service, but, like, they're worried about being targeted. And it helps me check my list to see, like, is this still up to date? And I get really excited every time I get an address down. like I feel like every address down makes it that much harder for somebody to find people. But yeah, it's not. I wish there was, like, I don't feel like this is at all a solution. It's just what we have right now. So
Fair enough. Again, not really a sales pitch, and I recognize you work for Consumer Reports, but for those not familiar with the easy opt-outs solution, can you just explain kind of like what it tries to do? And you said it works really well, but like what is the actual? I got that it's $20, but like what am I getting for
yeah.
$20?
Oh, yeah. So, like, you give easy opt outs your information, and they will opt you out. They will opt out on your behalf of a lot of different sites. And I'd have to pull up the actual report, but, like, I think it was like somewhere around 65 to 70%. Like, they had a high success rate compared to, most, not all, but most of the other services that we tested. Optory did really well as well, the, like, highest paid tier of Optory. Um, and it's just cool to be able to tell people, like, it's cool to be able to tell people, like, this might not get everything, but when you use an opt-out list, it'll make it a lot easier. And I think they're constantly trying to improve their methods. Like, they'll be like, what didn't this work on, and how can we improve it? So I think that's cool.
Yeah.
But there's other services too, like, and I don't think we have, like, we tested like 4 people for service. So, like, and it's been a little while. I think we did it in August. So, like, all these, like, a lot of people's work will pay for service, which I think is really cool.
Maybe kind of thinking in terms of like closing thoughts. If you could give the listeners maybe like one core message or like a single call to action regarding their online privacy, what do you think it would be?
Oof, that's a really tough one because I feel like people are in all different, like, people have
Hmm.
different situations. So I guess, like, I usually just send people to Security Planner because it'll give you a digital security plan based on what you're worried about and what devices you have. But yeah, that's a really tough one. I think that's one of the hardest things that I've dealt with, is that people would give me information that wasn't applicable to my scenarios, and I'm like, oh,
Hmm.
that's great info, but it's not going to help me. So I would say to kind of, um, think about what you're using, what you're trying to do, what you're concerned about, and, like, what is one step you can take to get started, because it does make a difference. So.
Yeah, security planner is a good plug and probably a good place to end. So, Yael, I guess where can people go to find out more about you, your work, anything you mentioned today?
Oh, sure. Yeah, my website is yaelwrites.com, yaelwrites.com. And then for Security Planner, securityplanner.org.
Yeah,
And
rock
I'm also
on.
on Blue Sky and Mastodon and everything but X. So,
All the places.
yeah.
Yael, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Really informative content today. A lot for us to consider. Thank you for your time. Thank you for the color changing drinks,
Of
and
course.
cheers.
Cheers.